Sorry for the delay in us getting on this morning. We had some technical difficulties. I'm Rich Odell, and I'm one of the co-executive directors of SPIRE, SPIRE Institute and Academy. We have two arms to it. And now that we are back in, I'm going to be joined by a couple of other people who were the ones we expected to have on this call. That's my colleague, Ted Meekma, the other co-executive director, and Thad, who is our swim coach and director of the swim program. They'll be joining us in just a couple of minutes, but I'll give you a little bit of background on SPIRE from the academic and the residential side to let you have some better understanding of who we are in case you have not been there recently or are planning to come soon. We have a unique model that we are building out from the academic perspective. It is with 4 pillars that we believe are key and to a student's success in life, not just in high school, but in life. And those 4 components are the traditional academic college preparatory program, traditional only in the sense of the course types that we provide, but not in terms of the delivery. It is project-based, it's cross-curricular and collaborative, has a strong experiential component, which we believe helps kids remember what they're learning, not simply learn it for the sake of passing a test. The second pillar is the personal skill development side, a very critical piece also of every child's development, and actually the foundation on which we build for life. And so those things having to do with learning trust and learning confidence and teamwork and friendships and relationships and how do we build on failures to make successes, those things are all part of our program to build out the personal skill development side. The third pillar of our program is your major, and your major in our case is the experience that you're going to get in that particular now sport or specialization that you come to us in. We tend to call that a major since you spend 3 to 4 hours a day in that, plus the 5 hours that you spend on the academic side, gives a good solid day of work. And that is the third area in terms of your major. There is a fourth area which sets us apart from all other type institutions in the country, and that is the career component. So while you're with us in the academic program, and when you're in your major and you're in your personal skill development side, all of that is going to help you find and identify the things that are your strengths beyond your major that might ultimately become your first occupation, whether it's out of college or out of high school. And so that component is where our students get exposure to experienced people in a variety of professions. And those professions are the ones that are going to be sustainable for the future and provide the best opportunities for students moving out of a high school or a college preparatory program. And those 4 legs or 4 pillars we feel are critical, all of equal length, all of equal importance to a child's ability to be successful in life. And so that is our foundation. That's what we have built the SPIRE Institute and Academy on. It has 2 components to it in terms of, as I said at the start, Institute and Academy. What I was just describing was the Academy side. And in a couple of minutes, I'll be joined by 2 of my colleagues, I believe, to help explain parts of that. But for now, I'll explain the Institute side. The Institute is a piece that is our research side, which provides opportunity for corporations, not-for-profit organizations to come and work collaboratively in our space and start developing new kinds of technology, new kinds of skills that are going to be necessary moving forward and provide internship opportunities for students while they are attending SPIRE. So the Institute side will grow more slowly than the Academy side, but altogether it'll be quite an extraordinary institution that's preparing everybody for that opportunity in their first profession moving forward. Now, a little bit about our campus. Our campus is very large, as you have probably seen if you've gone online and looked through our website. But we also have some new facilities being created right now. One of them is the new learning facility, what we call SPIRE Academy. And that is a 25,000 square foot space building being built out right now and will be ready by the 1st of August. It's a space that is with very high-tech classrooms, furniture that is all movable so that we can create different types of learning environments to meet our needs and to meet the needs of the students. It also has the eSport studio as part of that. It has a mechatronics facility, which you will hear more about in a few minutes from my colleague Ted. And it also has science lab and a big common space where we can put together different class structures on very short notice as kids get engaged in various conversations that are both internal but also external, where we can connect to the world and bring kids together along with individuals who are educators in other parts of the world to provide some supplemental instruction in various things that we're studying. We also have brand new housing that is being constructed for us, being constructed off-site, coming on site in the first part of August. These are facilities that will house 12 students plus a house parent. There'll be 2 students to a room. And if the COVID concerns have not been improved upon, then we might end up having just 1 student in a room. But the total space that these buildings occupy will be for 12 students. There is a common area. As I said, there's a house parent who will live there full time and gives kids a sense of being in a home environment. We're actually having 5 of these placed on campus, so room initially for 60 students to board, and all of the students coming in both the aquatics program, in the track and field, and in the basketball, and then in our other 2 new areas, we believe that we will have an opening enrollment of somewhere between 45 and 60 students. All of our students who come to us also have the opportunity, if they are in the upper years of the high school program, to also take courses through Kent State University and be dual enrolled. And we are a fully accredited institution academically in that we are a satellite campus of a place called Grand River Academy, which is just a few miles up the road. And we will work collaboratively with them on helping to build out the curriculum. So with that, we've been joined by my colleague, Ted Meekma, and by Thad Schultz, the director of the swimming program. I'm going to turn it over to Ted to talk about the sports part. Ted?
Yeah, thanks, Rich. Appreciate you stepping in during our technical difficulties too. All right, I'm going to start over. My name is Ted Meekma. I work with Rich on kind of co-managing directors of SPIRE. And I'm going to give you a little oversight on the facility first, which is a pretty amazing place. I've been in this business for many decades, and I've never seen anything quite like the SPIRE Academy and Institute complex. It's a 175-acre plot of land with 3 massive buildings of 750,000 square feet. One of those buildings is our field and courts building, where we can have up to 6 basketball courts or 12 volleyball courts with a turf field on the other side. The second building is a track and field building with seating for 5,000, massive areas for field events, and a full football field inside the track. The third building is our swim building, where there's an Olympic-sized pool and a standard recreational pool, 4 therapy pools, and all the support facilities that you need for a facility like this. There's plenty of locker rooms. There's a Spire Fuel, that's where our nutritious cafeteria sits. There's a performance center that I'll talk about in a second. So all in all, it's a pretty amazing complex that's very well known for hosting events. Big Ten track and field, Big East, Atlantic 10, swimming and track and field, NCAA Division I and II, NAIA championships, Olympic qualifiers. It's an unbelievable place for hosting and running and operating events. What's nice now is that we're really building out the training side and the programming side of SPIRE in multiple sports. Right now, that includes basketball, swimming, track and field. We're launching a new esports program this summer with camps, both virtual and physical, and then an esport academy in the fall, and then a drone racing camp this summer, and then what's called a mechatronics engineering program that will begin in the fall, where there's drone work, robotic work, and work in different kinds of emerging technologies. So as Rich has already explained, this is more than just a sports academy. a lot of different disciplines we'll be offering throughout the year, and as we grow, other kinds of activities that kids can come and participate in throughout the school year. The various programs at SPIRE start with this academy that we're describing, both a high school and a post-grad program, and then a big camp program in the summer, and starting to grow throughout the year during holidays and spring breaks. We have club programs in various sports that run outside the academy program, and then leagues and clinics as well, depending upon the sport. We do a lot of work in volleyball and soccer too, outside the camp and academy world. SPIRE Performance is the long-term athletic development training side of SPIRE, where we work alongside the coaches who deal with skill development. The Performance Institute deals more with the physical conditioning and the mental skills training, proper nutrition, proper hydration, kind of building the total athlete alongside the the more specialized skill development side of each particular sport. The coaching staff at SPIRE I'm very proud of. They've all got extensive collegiate experience, very prepared and very qualified and experienced in developing students for the next level. And now Thad is a perfect example of that. I'll let him explain a little bit more about his background, but the coaches are excellent, and they're very skilled at understanding the proper balance between training and competition, and how much you train and how do you get ready and peak for performance time. They know how to schedule these kind of things. They know who to schedule against. We play independent schedules because we train all year long, so we're not a part of the Ohio State High School Athletic Association. But the level of competition that we engage in is excellent throughout the year. That's a good overview of the sports side. I'm proud to be involved. I've never seen a facility that can be a combination of an event hosting complex, an academy facility that also runs robust camp programming, and then a wide variety of programming for the regional athlete who can come in again for clubs and leagues and clinics and camp programs. So the place is so big that we've got the ability to kind of schedule those things alongside each other and next to each other, and it makes for an exciting atmosphere. It's a very contagious environment, and it's also great because we can market all of our camp and academy programs to the local audience and to the people coming in through the events. So it's a very cool place. We encourage you to come check it out. Each week when we do these, we try to invite a special guest, and this week it's our aquatics director and head coach of our academy program, Thad Schultz. So I'm going to have him give you a little background on himself, and then talk a little bit about the program. And then if we don't have questions from the audience, Rich and I will pepper him with questions and see how he does when the pressure's on.
That makes me nervous. So, hi, my name is Thad Schultz. As Ted said, I'm the head swimming coach here at SPIRE. Short history trip on my background. I swam in high school and in Ohio, and I went to school at West Virginia University. When I left West Virginia, I met a guy named Jack Nelson at the Olympic trials in '92, who brought me down to be a professional swimmer in Fort Lauderdale, where I was able to become a national champion the summer of '92 with him, and started coaching shortly after that, and been coaching ever since. And I've coached club, and I've coached at the collegiate level. I coached at Clemson, I coached at Ohio State, I coached at Penn State, and I've coached professional athletes and Olympians such as Colin Jones, Margaret Holzer, Mark Gangloff, Courtney Shealy. The list kind of goes on and on. So I've had a lot of experience coaching all variety of swimmers, and helping a lot of them get to the upper levels of our sport. So that's been kind of the fun stuff. As Ted mentioned, there's kind of three parts to our program here at SPIRE with the Academy. We were at camps, and we're doing camps right now, and they're off eating lunch and having a delicious lunch and fuel with meatball subs today. We got meatless meatball subs for our vegetarian swimmers and coaches, so they're enjoying that too. And then we also work with our local club team is the Lake Erie Silver Dolphins. And that's our club team. And sometimes we pull those athletes in with work with the academy swimmers to kind of raise the level of excellence with everybody. And also give everybody a chance to make new friends and have other people to hang out and do stuff with. So it's a great combination that's worked really well for us the last 5 years since I've been here, and helping people not only get better as an athlete, but also be comfortable in their environment and have some fun while they're here. So we've really enjoyed all that. The program itself, we try to base it on technique. We're a technique-based program. I don't do a ton of yardage. When I was at Penn State, for example, I had 3 All-Americans in the mile, and I don't think we did over 7,500 ever in a practice. And that's for the distance guys. So it's about doing things at a really high level. It's about doing
Explain why that is.
Well, we want to make sure that we're keeping, that we're enabling people to stay away from being injured, and keeping longevity in the sport. If we just grind them down to nothing, there's not a lot of long-term success.
Yeah.
So that's number one. Number two, it's not really necessary. If we can keep the quality of what we're doing at a real high level in terms of technique and in terms of speed, and repeat that's what's going to help us get faster. We don't need to grind out yardage to get there. We can get there by doing things at a high level. Back in the 70s and 80s, they thought that was the way to do it. They thought it was to grind it out, but fortunately, we've become more evolved in the last 30 years.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of success with that. Like I said, I've had a lot of success with that. So the technique is really the main focus to things. We are really intense with practices. We encourage you to go fast a lot. We encourage you to race and practice a lot. And it's not just swimming. We'll have you race kicking. We'll have you race with some different drills. We're going to have you race with a stretch cord and all kinds of different ways of doing it. It can be a little dull looking at that black line all the time. So we try to mix it up and try to do some other things to hit the energy systems that we want to hit for the amount of time we want to hit it. And so if we can do it by doing 2200s, or we can do it by going, 2 minutes on a stationary bike and jump off and then jump rope for a minute. And then we do, maybe a couple med ball slams, and then we get on the block and we do 100, working on X, Y, and Z within that 100, and we can do that 7 times, and that we can get the same energy systems hit and the same technique hit, but we can do it at a higher level. We're going to do the second option because it's a heck of a lot more fun to doing 2200s and just looking at the black line for 40 minutes. So that's kind of the philosophy behind what we do.
And I've always found it. I've overseen academies where they're involved with multiple sports, and I've always seen that it's helpful if you can kind of simulate competitive pressure during practice sessions, because then when they get out and it's time to compete, they're kind of used to what pressure feels like. When it starts getting, adversity starts coming in, things start going wrong a bit. They know how to react because they've already been experiencing that, as opposed to just talking through it with the mental conditioning coach. They're actually getting a feel for that kind of, how do I deal with that kind of pressure through kind of simulated competition within training. It sounds like you're doing some of those kind of things as you lay out your program.
We do a lot of that, and we do it at different levels too. It's not just get on the blocks and race, hundreds on long rest and do high quality work with that. We also do things. We're not cattle prodding people around, but we'll do things where we'll work on noise during a start. And what happens if, you start falling in, and how do you handle that? And, everything from that to, what happens when you miss the turn. And we'll do practices where we won't touch the wall. You've got to flip and then figure out how to get back and do what you need to do if you run into an issue. Just for those types of things, and what happens if your goggles break before you swim. So, no, we do a lot of that. We do a lot of that in different avenues, not just racing, but also, like you said, the mental preparation side, so that you're never really shaken. Everything you're okay. I know what to do here. So this is my next step.
No, that's great. Another question I have is, again, a lot of times I've seen training in a sport be done in a silo, and then training over with a physical conditioning expert kind of done by itself. And then those two people are never talking to each other about how they're building the program for the athlete. At SPIRE, I know you work closely with John Wallace, who runs Spire Performance, and explain a little bit how you coordinate the dry land training side of things with your own drills, but also in conjunction with John's team.
We do a lot of, it's like you said, it's a lot of conversation, and I go up into the weight room and we'll talk about stuff. And if I see things in the water that look like a weakness, for example, I'll go up and say, okay, look, we've got an issue with core stability when the hand's entering out here, we're not being connected all the way through from the right hand to the left foot. And how can we do that? And so we'll talk about different motions we can do, different lifts we can do, different things we can do upstairs to kind of recreate that connectivity and build strength through that. And that's just one of 100 examples. You know, we do different things where, and John does a great job of really trying to establish the core first. And that's what we want as swimmers, because that's where our center balance is. You know, we don't have the advantage of basketball and volleyball and other sports. So they've got both feet on the ground. Our balance point has to be where our belly button is. And that really sets the tone for everything else. And so that's kind of where our start is in the weight room. And that's what John Wallace has done a great job with.
And then also, from my experience, it seems like you guys do a good job of testing and assessing somebody in the early stage, and then setting a program together for them, and then checking that from time to time, and kind of monitoring their progress, and then reporting back home as to what kind of progress they're making over the course of a semester or 2 semesters at Spire. To talk a little bit about that.
Correct. So what we'll do is there's a lot of conversation in the beginning. When athletes first arrive, we have a lot of conversations about, you know, what they've done in the past, what's worked, what hasn't worked, kind of where they are, and that kind of starts the conversation for making sure we create the program that's going to help them be successful. You know, there's things that are general that, you know, are going to work for everybody at one level, but as we continue to grow and get better, we have to specialize more and more and make sure we're separating out the things that we need to do. And so we do test sets. The test set we've done in the past, but may not be the one going forward because we want to reevaluate each year. But the test set we've done in the past, we've done 4 100s is one we did 2 years ago. And we did it every 4 weeks. Every 4 weeks, went 4 100s off the block and looked at stroke rates and times and all that kind of stuff, and tried to see where we were better, where we were worse, and where we made improvements, and had to take into account kind of where we were in the training cycle. Obviously, we're a little bit more fresh in September, and we're a little more broken down at the end of October, and a little bit, more broken down in January, and a little bit fresher at the end of February. And so those things have to come into play with a test set like that. But that's kind of where we begin stuff. It starts with the conversation of where we are and where we want to be, and then we start putting the pieces together to make that happen.
Yeah, go ahead, Rich.
I was going to say, Thad, maybe if you could explain, since we have a lot of kids there right now in swim camp, could you explain what a day is like in swim camp? We've got some other opportunities through the summer. We've got this session was sold out. The next one is sold out, but there's still other opportunities. Could you share what a day looks like for a swimmer right now?
Sure. We start Sunday afternoon. Then we go all day Monday, all day Tuesday, all day Wednesday, and then Thursday morning. So we start Sunday night is a freestyle focus. Tuesday is a backstroke focus with a little review of freestyle. And we start working on flip turns. Wednesday is a breaststroke focus. We start working on open turns. Thursday is a butterfly focus. We start working on IM transition turns and forward starts. And then Thursday is the last morning, and it's pretty much relay starts and backstroke starts and kind of putting things together. So on a Monday for a full day of camp, what will happen is they'll get up in the morning, they'll come to the pool, they'll come to actually the fuel, and they'll have breakfast first thing at 8 o'clock in the morning, and they'll sit and they'll eat. After breakfast, they'll come on the pool deck, and we'll do a stroke talk, and we'll talk about whatever our topic of the day is. We'll talk about the key points of the stroke. We'll talk about drills. I'll have somebody demonstrate, probably from my club team that knows how to do the drills well, demonstrate the drills, go through the progression, make sure that everybody understands, what we're looking at and how the body needs to look, those types of things. Then they'll go outside. They're going to do a stretching routine. They do a little dry land wake up, some stuff to make sure their metabolism's up and they're awake and they're ready to go. And then we come in, we get in at 10 o'clock, and we swim from 10 to 11:30. And it's all drilling. We go over all the drills we talked about for whatever the topic of the day is. And all the coaches on deck take a couple of lanes. So there's a lot of feedback. Every 25, they get feedback on what's happening. What are we doing well? What do we need to improve? So on and so forth. And we do that for an hour and a half. And then we go to lunch at noon. After lunch, we got a little bit of downtime for about a half an hour so people can decompress, text their family, whatever they need to do. And then we're back in the water again at 1 o'clock. Or I'm sorry, 1:30. And we're in from 1:30 to 3:30. And we're reviewing the previous day's routine, and we're adding the new stuff. And we're working on, like I said, whatever the topic of the day is, making sure we've got it down, and then we're hitting the turns or starts or whatever else is on for that day in that 2-hour block. When we finish with that, we head upstairs to performance. John Wallace has a day where he does some of his testing and some of the stuff we do up for performance. Len, who is our mental skills coach, comes in on one day and he has a conversation with the kids about mental skills and talks about some of the stuff that help make people go from good to great. And then one day we have a nutrition talk, and we talk about how to fuel your body properly, things you need to do pre-workout, post-workout, during the season, how you need to change that when you get into taper, those type of things. And then after the performance of that day, we have dinner, and then we have a game night where we go each night. We do a different activity. Last night we played kickball for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. And then we went back and we had a cookout last night, not a cookout, but a bonfire last night, made s'mores, and everybody had a great time. And before 10 o'clock, everybody was wiped out and went to bed. So that's kind of our day.
Including the coach.
Including the coach.
Right.
Yep. That's why I drink my Dr. Pepper.
So just remind those of you on today that the chat line is open. You're welcome. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see an opportunity to send us a message if you have a question for Thad or for Ted or myself about any aspect of SPIRE. We're happy to respond to those questions. If not, Ted, back to you with maybe talking a little bit about either the mental conditioning or a little bit more about the overall facilities. Since we didn't get to show the video at the front end of this, people might want a little more explanation about that.
Yeah, before I do that, I actually wanted to ask Thad one more question about the whole college placement process that we're working with all the high school kids who are on their path, on their road to college. Explain a little bit of how that works, and you know, our team on the ground, as well as your contacts within the university system and your experience of that.
So what we do, part of the initial conversation, as I said before, you know, we sit down and we talk about kind of where we are and where we want to go. And that's part of the conversation. And so we start talking about colleges very early on in the academy, because, you know, time is kind of the essence. And so we want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence and exploring all of our opportunities. And so what we start with are just some real basic questions. You know, where do we want to live? Where do we, you know, what kind of environment do we put ourselves into in terms of academics and athletics? And then we work with Sue Powell, who is one of our staff members here at SPIRE. And she tries to help put together with NCAA rules and regulations and how that process works. And so between the two of us, we sit down with the athletes and we try to come up with a list of 50 to 100 schools that we're interested in. And then we start working on bringing that list down and weeding out the ones that are more appropriate, ones that maybe aren't necessarily a good fit through both, you know, my contacts, because, you know, again, I've coached for a long time in college, and I know a lot of college coaches, especially, you know, on the East Coast, because that's where I've done most of my coaching. I know most of the coaches in the country on this side of the planet. And so just working on, you know, what's a good fit. And then we start reaching out with emails and phone calls and really just digging into the whole process. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, I think it's great. A lot of parents and kids as well aren't real comfortable with when to start that process and how to execute, you know, on a timeline properly and to get in front of the right coaches and sometimes adjusting the expectations of the kids and the parents as to what is the right target level for them. And we've been fortunate to put students at every level, but sometimes that level is NCAA Division I. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's what's most appropriate for the individual. And I think it sorts itself out over time once they've been in the program and they see the level of competition, both internally and externally. But hey, you might just touch on that for a second.
Well, and I think one of the key components to what you're talking about too is where on that spectrum does the athlete fall and what are they comfortable with? You know, some athletes want to be the big fish in a small pond. You know, they may be potentially a Division I athlete, but they want to go Division II or a mid-major Division I because they want to be the star of the team and that sort of thing. And sometimes you get the kid that wants to struggle to make the travel squad on a bigger team. And because that's what they like. They like chasing people down and trying to test themselves that way. So I think that's part of what you're talking about too, is we got to really find the fit for the athlete for where they're comfortable, you know, whether they're comfortable in a big city, you know, or a small town, whether, a big school of 100,000 or a small school of, 10,000, you know, and how that's going to help them academically and how it's going to help them athletically. And those are all things. So when we start with the big list, it's, okay, anything's the limit. What gets you excited? Let's put them on the list, and then let's start narrowing stuff down. Let's start looking at their times. Let's start looking at what they offer for majors. Let's start looking at, the coaching staff. Let's start looking at what their student-to-teacher ratios are. And, let's figure out what's going to be the best fit for each individual.
Yeah, I think that's key, is how personalized the process has to become. And again, Rich and I have been in this industry for a long time, and so it's always a challenge to take a group but provide a personalized approach, an individualized approach to training within a group of athletes and educating within a group of athletes. But I think that's something that SPIRE focuses on very well, that the way we integrate the academics and the athletics and the performance training and the student life, and making sure that they're having fun while they're working, but also always thinking about what's that next step. And again, a lot of times the communication between all the different divisions that need to collaborate to accomplish that isn't very good. I think we do an excellent job of coordinating and making sure that, the physical conditioning coaches and the mental conditioning coaches and the college placement people and we're actually calling our academic teachers more like coaches these days, because that's what it is. We're coaching them and preparing for the next stage of life. And this is the platform. And I don't know, it's fun. You get a lot of satisfaction from seeing someone grow and evolve and develop over the course of a year or two or three in the program. And, I run across a lot of ex-students from the past who rarely say to me, my tennis game or my golf game is, here or there, but what I learned from my academy experience has really helped me in work and in life. And that's the bigger picture. That's not always what a family focuses on the first day they walk in the door, but that's really where our long-term focus is.
And Ted, if I can take off of that note, there are a lot of things right now that people are focused on that are not just about their sport or their academic, but about what kind of process or protocols do we have in place around the COVID concerns. Right. So I'd like to just touch on that for a couple of minutes here before we come up on the hour to wrap this session up. We have a very thorough process in place, which you can find on our website, which by the way, the website is a new one. And if you go there, you'll see phase 1 of it. The rest of the website will be up in mid-July, but you'll get all the information that you need to propel you to want to make an application or inquire for more information about what we are offering. Our COVID plan, as it stands right now, and it's constantly evaluated to make sure that we're staying on top of any new things that are occurring beyond the walls of SPIRE. But we have a plan that everybody comes in through one door, the main door to the institution, and they are checked for temperature. They are given a sheet they must check off as to do they have any of the following symptoms, and then sign that. It's only at that point that they are allowed into the space to do in any one of the 3 buildings that we have to participate in the programming that's going on in those spaces. In terms of where kids eat in our fuel facility, That is sanitized before each meal and sanitized again after each meal. Students are only allowed to sit one to a table. So as much as we'd like to encourage the development of friendships with people you may not have ever met before, we do need you to social distance appropriately. In our residential facility, the same is true. One student to a room to make sure that we do have that distancing. There is opportunity in the common area for kids to play ping pong, pool, watch TV, watch movies, things of that sort. But again, it's all with social distancing in place. 3 times per day, temperatures are checked of the athletes to make sure that there is nothing significantly changing there. Our faculty and our coaching staff and our residential staff have all been trained to look for signs of any changes in student behavior or temperature or coughing, things that might be symptoms. And then we, through a partnership with the Cleveland Clinic, have a person on campus to assist us should there be any need for additional services on the emergency side to get them to a hospital that is nearby, or if it is simply to put them in an isolation area on property while we either contact, not while either, but while we contact the family and get some plan in place for how we want to get them either home to you or you to come pick them up, or what would be the appropriate next steps. Same things I've just described will all be in place for the fall when we start the academic year, which again begins on August 24th for students. And so if you have interest in applying for camps, we still have some openings for the summer. And then we also have openings for our fall program. This year, our goal to get to 60 students, but not to go above that in this first year of our operation under the new SPIRE brand. So any other final thoughts, Thad or Ted?
Yeah, in the beginning, when we were having a little technical trouble while you were getting your sound adjusted, I did kind of give an overview of the facility. So I think that we touched on that pretty well. As I said before, it's a unique campus with a lot of interesting activity going on, and we hope you come and visit, whether it's for a short-term camp program or look into the academy kind of sessions themselves. They're unique and interesting and very effective, and we hope to see you this summer or this fall or sometimes both. Thad, anything else you want to say before we wrap this up?
Well, one thing I do want to kind of brag on ourselves about a little bit, going back to the college conversations, that every athlete, every swimmer that we've had coming through our program that's wanted to swim in college is swimming in college. And none of them that I'm aware of has transferred out of the school they originally picked. So they've been pretty comfortable with their original choice coming out of SPIRE. So I think those are both real positive things in terms of the college search process and how well it's working for us here at SPIRE.
Oh, that's great. Thanks for all your good work. Rich?
Well, we thank you for joining us for this session today and invite you to come to campus anytime that works for you, or to have a further dialogue with our coaching staff or with Brian Oliver, who is our Director of Admissions, was unable to be on today, but Brian is the person who will get back to you if you express interest in the academy part of our program. If it's to come to a camp, Lentz Basic is the person who will be responding to you with your inquiries. We believe that the SPIRE Institute and Academy are a place designed for today's learners to have success tomorrow and throughout life. We build on all of those principles I alluded to at the beginning, the 4 pillars, and we want to help every child achieve beyond their own expectations on a daily basis and make for a better life. With that, we'll sign off, and thank you for joining us today. Be in good health. Bye-bye.
Yep, be safe. Bye.